Welcome, crew, to What Are Your Three, a Channel 3 podcast, where we take a member of the Channel 3 community, discuss 3 games of their choosing, go through honorable mentions and other video game topics to have a nice little video game discussion. I'm Dan Tucker, and with me as always is L. Ray.
Hey everyone, today's guest is someone you've seen on Channel 3 a whole bunch. Not a stranger here, part of actually the comedian population. If you didn't know, we have a couple comedians going around here. The co-host of Triple Dare. You can see them actually with the co-host Brian McGuinness on the Playable Characters Podcast. It is Dani over here, Dani Ahrens. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, no, I'm happy to be here. I've been doing my research, been listening to the episodes, a lot of good stuff, and I'm ready to choose my 3.
Well, you sent us your 3, and I'm gonna get right into it because I'm very excited for the first game.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I did technically already choose my 3. I made it seem like I was about to do it on the spot, but I did definitely prepare.
You prepared, and then I tried to prepare for your preparation, and because this first game, I'm super excited.
It's a good way to go about it,
right?
I feel like that's an uncut Mary Poppins song. I like to prepare, and
I've prepared to prepare for game number 1, Super Smash Bros. Melee. The second iteration of Super Smash Bros. In 2001. Why Super Smash Bros. Melee, Dani? Let's just start there.
If I may, just as an introduction, I want to clarify that these 3 games that I picked are not necessarily my favorite games. I just want to say it, clarify, because I part of why I like this show is some people come to it with different mentalities. Sometimes it's the top 3 games that they're playing at the moment. Sometimes it's the top 3 games of all time. Sometimes though, it's what I'm doing, which is saying these are the 3 games that I think influenced my philosophy towards gaming the most, and my approach and I guess experience with gaming as a whole. All right.
So tell me how Melee affects your philosophy in gaming.
So it's God, sorry, cut this. I was gonna say it's very what's the word should I use? Yeah, cut this.
The more you say cut this, Danny, the more I'm going to leave it.
The more I think you're going to leave it. No, it's totally fine. I just was saying it sounded pretentious. The more I'm reflecting on what I said, but I'm saying that these games influenced me for sure. So, Smash Melee. So I was born in 1990. All right. So I kind of grew up in the tail end of the arcade era, I think, and the beginning of the console era, and kind of almost a renaissance with the N64, PlayStation 2, and all that sort of stuff. I did not have a console growing up. My parents did not want me to have a console. We were one of those families that rented N64s from Blockbuster. And I'd get to play them on a weekend sort of basis, and it wasn't anything where my parents necessarily hated gaming. It wasn't anything like that. It was more they just didn't want to buy a console because then it's an investment thing, where it's you get one console, right? Then you have to get 4 controllers, and then you have to get all these games, and it's builds upon it. Point is that one summer I was finally old enough to work my first job. And my parents said that if I wanted a gaming console, I had to earn the money for it. I had to buy it myself. First gaming console I ever purchased was the GameCube. And it was almost entirely because of Smash Bros. Melee. I worked as an umpire, had children throw balls at me for an entire summer. I had people throw bats. I had middle-aged people just yelling at me. And I will say one of the I still almost get off on this moment. When I was 13, I got to tell a 45, 50-year-old man get out of the game because he was just yelling and he was drunk. I got to tell someone either you leave or the game ends right here. And the dad was just so competitive. He's no, and he left because he was my kid could still bring it back. Point is that and also that kid, the kid of that dad literally threw a baseball, got stuck in my umpire's mask, threw it so hard, got stuck in the visor of it. Point is, the dad was definitely an emotional terrorist. Point is that I went through a lot of hot days. I worked, that's the thing is Melee helped me understand capitalism. There's a lot of layers but most of all, okay, you can maybe edit this in and stuff, I don't know. But I also I don't know if you remember this, but there was this weird post-arcade point, and it still kind of exists now, but where they have the demos in stores.
Sure.
That was such a big deal during my adolescence of just it's they weren't arcades because you didn't have to put coins into them anymore, right? But you did have to wait in line as a dozen kids were in front of you and everything. And I would, no matter the errand, no matter the thing, if my parents were getting a toy for a nephew or niece or some second, third, fifth cousin, I would go to Toys R Us with them. I would most often go to Circuit City with them because they were getting broken, whatever, getting things fixed. Point is that I would go there because Bowser. The idea that Bowser was in Melee, I grew up with the first Smash, and it became an obsession of just I just needed to get more of this game, and so that really drove me that summer to earn money to get this thing. So it not only kind of taught me this weird competitive nature to just putting in your time, work wise, but also getting into the grind as a player. Melee was my first tournament that I ever did. I actually got second place in a tournament for Smash Bros. It was a school dance tournament. Dan's widen his eyes. It wasn't anything huge, but the only reason why I got second place, and I'll be honest about this, is because I missed the last round. I went out and I hung out with friends at the dance. I had my first dance. So I had a good time, and I think Melee kind of taught me a lot about competitiveness and putting in your time, but also kind of in that weird moment at that dance taught me competitiveness isn't everything. You could, if you get focused on it too much, I would have maybe missed that dance. I would have maybe missed a bunch of jokes and moments and everything. And I also still wish I just won the game. I still kind of wish that I just won first place. I had it. It was so good at young Link. I cannot even I was so I had it. I would give up that dance. I'd give up all those interactions. I'd give them all up. No, it was a good night.
So you kind of brought it up, but intentional or not, and I don't know how intentional it is because I feel like Nintendo tries to avoid this kind of stuff. But Smash Brothers 64 was really a kind of this happy-go-lucky game. The commercial, with these characters skipping around, and Yoshi starts. Oh, someone trips. I think Yoshi trips Mario, or Mario trips Yoshi. One of them started this war that's been going on forever. But it's just this funny game and then Melee comes out, and it becomes one of the most competitive games out there.
There's war.
There's people today are still swear that this is the top iteration of the game, and there's no other version that's competitive except this one. I'm not part of that team, but there are people that believe in this. So, were you competing? I know you did that tournament. Was this I'm going to get my friends and we're going to play one-on-one and we're going to battle it out over and over again? Or was this still just you put the party game on, you're having a good time with it? How are you playing this game?
First of all, 100% agree with what you're saying about the first Smash. The first Smash, in retrospect, almost feels like QWOP. It feels like a meme. It feels like something where it's oh, what if these, 8, how many, I don't know, 8 to a dozen different characters, just shared a little space and were able to zap each other and stuff. And Kraid was there in the background for one of them. And it feels like this weird sort of metaverse sort of meme sort of thing that almost could have ended there. It almost could have just been this weird cult classic. But then again, Melee, which I think Melee, why it excites me and why it excited most people is that you thought that Smash was over, and that Melee told you, we're going to keep expanding this. This isn't the first, this isn't the last one. The last one wasn't the last one, and this isn't the last one, and we're going to keep adding people to this. And that is, honestly, it's the most exciting thing about any Smash game. It's just the variety. It's the variety of Mortal Kombat doesn't offer this. It's essentially just a fighting game. It's an evolution of fighting games and everything. And it offers something that these fighting games are trying to compete with now. Mortal Kombat games are trying to add the Joker, they're trying to add Spawn, they're trying to add all these different things. And I don't know. It's all influenced, I think, by Smash now. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I think that is the most exciting thing, and Melee kind of set that promise and also delivered on it. Like, gave a lot of what you actually wanted with a lot of stuff you didn't know you wanted. You know.
So on the other side, the other thing they added was like a mini story mode. It was a precursor.
Yeah.
It's a precursor to Brawl, which the Subspace Emissary is still the greatest story that they've done in their games, right? That story mode was like, oh wait, hold on. Like, it's not just a fighting game. Like, we could put a mini adventure to it, right? Like, that's just.
I don't know. I also like want to talk because there's so much game theory stuff. I want to talk about like what is coming next for Smash, because like I think they're just going to keep. How much time do we have? Because I really want to talk about how like I think Smash Ultimate might be the last Smash game, but I think it's going to be a living game. I think they're going to treat it like Fortnite from now on, but you have to buy in to play it, sort of. Like, it's just, instead of like having the page of characters expand, just flip to page 2, you know, and then you got 80 new characters there, you know?
Hey, listen, I'm watching Sakurai's YouTube videos about making games, trying to figure out, like, I'm watching it like I'm trying to break down the Zodiac Killers.
There's a hidden code, there's a hidden message
within the code.
Yeah, and he might just be done.
He might be.
They may threaten his family, but he might just be done.
Totally fine. But I'm also willing to believe the same thing about Mario Kart. Like, they might just be done. Like, they might just be done with Mario. Like, it's literally an infinity symbol. Like, I feel like they're trying to just be like, we're done with them. We're like, we need to do other stuff before we die. Like, we just need, like, there's other things we can do that are better. And like, I'm excited if they're tossing out Smash Bros. What's in their mind for what's next, you know? Like, that's exciting.
There were points going through the pandemic and Sakurai doing the character introduction videos where I'm pretty sure someone was sitting off camera with a gun pointed at him. There were times where it seemed like he was having fun, and there were times where I definitely thought they were holding his family hostage. And
don't say
it might be the same way, like you said, with Mario Kart.
What have you done?
Yeah. It might be like Mario Kart, though, where
don't say
it took 8 years for Mario Kart 8. I mean, there was a time in there where they had the additional courses back in the Wii U, but for all intents and purposes, it took 8 years to get to additional tracks. And guess what? I'm fine with that. If they take, 2025 comes around and suddenly they show up and like, hey, Fighter Pack 3's here. I'm in. Let's go.
Yeah, I don't need a new game at this point. All right, let's wrap Melee up with. I'm getting less and less competitive as these questions go. I went from ultimate competition to story. Here's the last one. Did you ever do any of the funny glitches that Melee had, because they had so many? The one popular one was the black hole glitch. That's the one that I always think of.
That's the ice climber one?
No, but if you have an ice climber one, that's exciting. Mine has to do with the laser cannons and reflect shields.
Nah, I couldn't do the glitches and stuff. Like, just honestly, like I'll talk about this later, but I have a tactile thing with my hands that I like had to like. I always had issues with, like, especially fast sort of things. But I really respected any time I could see people who were like pulling those things off, like where it's like people can't see my fingers, but I'm going like now that will describe my fingers.
We'll get to that when I cover games 3/3A and 3B.
Yeah.
Join us on the Bucket and Hoosier Show, the podcast that's all about community and competitive Rocket League.
If you're new to Rocket League, it's a high-flying, fast-paced game that combines soccer with rocket-powered cars. It's a game that's easy to pick up, but difficult to master.
And that's where our guests come in. We're talking about the best of the best in the Rocket League community to learn about their journeys, strategies, and tips for success.
Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, we've got something for everyone. So sit back, relax, and join us as we explore the exciting world of competitive Rocket League.
Join us live Monday evenings at twitch.tv/Bucket and Hoosier, and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts to catch past episodes. Be sure to hit the follow and notification button so you know when new content has been posted.
All right, so let's move on to game 2. So we go from Super Smash Bros. Melee to Halo 2. Now, Halo 2. Now, is this on the list because it's the best Halo ever, or is it on the list because, as you said, it made an impact on how you view gaming?
Both. I'm just so glad you said that, because like I wanted to say that, but I was like, is this too controversial? Like, The only game that I could say like kind of, or like maybe it's on par is like Reach, but Reach is really not Halo 2. Halo 2 is, especially because people now get updated Halo 2, which is very different than console release Halo 2. Like, one of my favorite things about Halo 2 is that it is extremely polished, and then also is full of glitches that will blow your mind. Like there's little things that it's like, like Halo 2. Wait, I don't want to interrupt your question. Were you about to get into that? Because like, no. I'm saying that like, yes and yes is what I'm saying. First of all, it's just like, yes, it is the best one, and yes, it definitely influenced how I approach gaming.
Go off. Let me hear all about it.
I mean, honestly, like, I think, gosh, because that's the thing is like, I went into Halo 2 like being kind of competitive, right? And I like, kind of approach it like a straightforward shooter. Sorry. I went into Halo 2 kind of being like competitive, and I approached it like a straightforward, sort of shooter. And as you kind of play it, I think it kind of teaches you to have fun with the game. Like, not just have fun with the objectives, but have fun with the game. Like, I had equally as many fun times with this game, like doing what I was supposed to do as I did doing what I was not supposed to do. I remember there was this one point, my friend Steve and I were hanging out, and we may or not we may or may not have been entirely sober. That's not the point. Point is though is at one point I threw a grenade at one of my tanks, and it just spun into the air. It spun into the air on a point and jumped up a mountain and flew off into the sky. And we just, like, our minds were broken. That was part of something like that. That was something we saw in our life. I remember for the final battle, is it Tartarus? Right? Tartarus? Big old Donkey Kong, what a guy. What's the final brute?
I have to look to make sure. I'm sure you're right.
It sounds right to me. I don't remember because I mostly just played multiplayer for this one, so I don't know.
You are correct. No, you are correct, Tartarus. Yes.
That's what I'm saying. So, the final boss battle, Tartarus, there's this, like, I don't know if it's infamous or not, but there's a long corridor because there's like this big boss battle arena for this final boss, right? There's this long like you land on this platform, and then there's a long corridor of a hallway that leads to this final big arena, right? I took a Banshee, which is the alien airplane, and I just broke off the wings, and I just, like, over the course of probably 30 minutes, like, just taking it left or right, I got it down the hallway, and I was able to beat Tartarus with an airplane. Like, I was able to just cheat the final boss on the hardest mode, and, like, that's what I'm talking about, is this game is just, like, it's messed up, it's broken, but it's also, like, easily the best design. Like, I remember jumping on that, what is it, the Scarab? Like, that's still one of my favorite moments in gaming. Like, when you shooting at this giant Scarab monster thing, and then you're like, I don't know how I'm going to take this thing down. And then there's a platform, a little bit of ramp, and you're like, yes, I'm going to jump on this thing. Like, I'm getting, like, Halo 2 absolutely rules for a lot of different reasons, especially with multiplayer, too. Like, how many times did you accidentally kill somebody, or like somebody blew you up and you ragdolled? Like, I think that above all else, in terms of my philosophy towards gaming, Halo 2 taught me both to like the value of not only being competitive, but also that, like, like scores are sometimes points on a screen, but the laughs that you have or the jokes that you have with friends and those multiplayer things, like, those are the things that last forever. Like, I might not remember this, like, the score that I got in a certain multiplayer match against Steve, but I certainly remember that tank flipping up the hill for no reason. And like there's value, I think, in games beyond points, is what I'm saying. And like, that's kind of what it taught me. Like, you can still enjoy the competitive side of things while also getting goofy and sometimes hitting someone with a hammer or accidentally throwing like a mine upon yourself and blowing yourself up and like ragdolling across the map for no reason. I don't know.
So with the multiplayer, was that something that you played online with because that's where all the kind of the glitchy stuff happened, or were you able to stuff did you have people around you could connect with?
So that's the thing. It's like back in the day, like most often it was straight off my 360. But also, I remember legit like youth group nights over at the church where like the parents had gone to sleep and we all brought our 360s and like connected them with different TVs. Like we're like in the youth center of a different place and throwing grenades at each other and doing all this stuff. And like, that's like, I just think about the actual connection to consoles and doing that. I didn't get to do internet as much, but I loved every chance that I got. Like it's a lot of fun. I think though I was at that point where I was on the cusp of it. I think most people at Halo 2 were at the cusp of it because it was new. Like I almost wanted to talk with you all about the importance of teabagging with like Halo 2. Like that was a huge deal.
It was groundbreaking.
It was groundbreaking.
Revolutionary. I fully don't think that Fortnite would exist if it wasn't for Halo 2's teabagging. I really think that again, it's that thing of doing the most with what you have. Like all we had was crouching, but you knew what it was. You knew that somebody crouched on your face after you died. You knew it wasn't just them crouch. They weren't sneaking anywhere. You knew it was a thing of shame. And like, you know, even if you didn't have that voice chat, you didn't have any of that. It's still like be goofy with gaming and like. You might risk your entire like life there. Like somebody might have you in the scopes of like, you know, their sniper and you're just teabagging and you get sniped and you die. You teabag somebody. So it's like, what really matters here? Like, what is the real value?
What a perfect transition point to go into game 3A and 3B. So you kind of snuck two in here, and I'm really curious where this is going to go, knowing You're kind of toned for this, like you said. You had Guitar Hero 2 and 3 listed here, which I'm okay with.
Yeah.
I think they kind of run they kind of run together. It's all about just the Guitar Hero experience. So I'm not judging. I'm just making a joke. Fear not. But I'm really curious now, knowing in light of this, like you said, we don't give parameters. We say pick 3 games. We at no point have ever said to anybody, pick your 3 favorite games, whatever. You called that out earlier. So now hearing this, I really want to hear.
I'm feeling pain hearing it.
Yeah,
I want to hear
pain
even hearing Guitar Hero 2. Yeah, I'm feeling pain even hearing Guitar Hero 2 because it's like Guitar Hero 3 is my heaven. Guitar Hero 2 is my hell. Like I will say that like right now. So I have a tactile disorder. It doesn't really matter. But the only reason why it matters is because Guitar Hero 2 was like, I would go to friends' places and I couldn't do anything. Like they'd be playing and like completing songs in like expert mode. And I'd be playing in like what the easiest mode. I don't even know. Is it juvenile? Is it infant mode? I don't know. But I'm like, and I'm breaking like the entire song. Like on the easiest mode, and it tore me apart. Like it was something where like friends were playing it at their houses, and I was like, not that I was excluded because of it, but it was like I don't want to go like get embarrassed. Like if that's what the whole night was, like they're playing on the PS2, and I'm like, I'm just gonna wreck myself. One point where I was like, this is the worst trouble bombing in Guitar Hero that I had. I was bombing in a Guitar Hero 2 game, and a Great Dane, a black Great Dane, came up next to the window next to me, and it was my friend's dog, but just barked at me right at the window that I was sitting at. And so like I was just like, and I'm like, you know, guitar flew out of my hand.
I'm glad you clarified it was your friend's dog. I was more worried it was some kind of like portent of death coming for you, just some kind of sign from the netherworld. They were coming for you. I'm like, where's this going?
It was an evil Scooby-Doo. It was a Scooby-Don't. It was a dark demon. And the point is that it just like nothing but shame followed me with Guitar Hero 2. So when Guitar Hero 3 came out for the Xbox 360, I bought it immediately. And I just like would practice it. I would practice it and actually like improve my tactile skills, right? So like it was not only that this game, like I think that this game just like kind of taught me, even if the game is dominating you, like don't give up. You know, like if you really want to stick to it and you really want to have fun with it, like keep grinding. Like, and I would play the like, you know, slow stuff with like the easy. I got up to the medium, got up to the hard, got up to the expert. And I think one of my favorite moments in gaming was there was a Civs weekend for my brother who's in college, and like I went to Civs weekend. He had a frat party, and like while all the partying was going on upstairs, we just like played Guitar Hero 3 and like beat the entire game. Like I think we started maybe halfway through, whatever, but on hard. And like I don't know, like that was a great moment that I got to have that I wouldn't have had if I just had like been like, nah, this ain't my thing. You know, if I just been like, well, this isn't for me. I can't do this. I can't do this. And like, because I treated it as like, well, I'm going to suck for a while. Like, but I can suck privately. And then I can like, I don't know, it just allowed me to have a lot of fun in the long term. And yeah. So again, I think that really influenced me when I, like with my approach to games, I guess, you know.
Do you still play this one at all? I say as a guy who was a rock band guy, and the guitars are still 6 feet from me right now. So
same.
Yeah, there's still rocking.
Maybe 12. Maybe 12 for me.
Yeah.
Maybe 12 for me.
Yeah, still gotta break it out.
I haven't played in a while. I haven't played in a while. I'd love to though. I probably should. Maybe I might do that tonight. But so yeah.
So what was the top track for you on 3? I'm not even going to ask about 2. 2, the Hound from Hell coming for you. Just I'm moving on from that one, and more kind of curious. You know, what was your favorite one on 3 to play with? And also, like, I'm impressed with how you stuck with it, because some of the songs can just get to you. As I was looking at some of the playlists again, because I was more of a rock band guy. I played the drums with Rock Band, and like you said though, I have no musical experience whatsoever. But I learned how to play drums because of Rock Band. Maybe if you put a drum kit in front of me because I had like the cymbals and everything, I might be able to play drums for all I know now. But yeah, I knew nothing of it. I can't keep rhythm. Yeah.
But it also like legitimately you might not feel it, but that probably gave you a better sense of rhythm than what you had before. You know,
absolutely.
Like, you know.
So what was your go-to song though for 3, or what's the one that like you hear it pop up on the, I'd say on the radio, but that would remind me how much older I am than the two of you, and that the two of you are coming to bury me again with some of the comments there as Danny's going through multiple failed closed businesses earlier that I spent much of my youth in. But what's the song you hear now that harkens back?
First off, if you think you're the only person who feels heartbroken that Circuit City isn't open anymore, you're wrong. I often just think about it and being like,
you dropped Blockbuster, Toys R Us, and Circuit City in the period of 2 sentences. I was like, they're all gone.
I was about to say, what is that? Where is that little girl I carried? Is that, what is that? I think that's Fiddler on the Roof. Anyways, one is Circuit City on the Roof. Anyways, cut all that.
This
cut
took a turn. No, it's staying. That's staying.
Yeah,
it's staying. You can say cut. Every time you say cut it like that, I'm leaving it.
Cut it. But yeah, we were talking about, what were we talking about? Legitimately, what were we talking about? We were talking about
what track sticks for you when you think about this. Like, there are songs that I hear now that
I got lost because I was gonna say that like legitimately I have a hard time remembering like what I mastered versus what I loved, to like both for Halo 2 and for Guitar Hero 3. I downloaded and found all the discography. Like I bought the album for Halo 2 because like that music slaps. Like I would just read comic books while listening and like and then like listening to Foghat, listening to all the stuff with Guitar Hero 3. I feel like the song that I remember love playing the most, God, they're really 2 that come to mind, but I really don't know how well I did on them. I can't say I mastered them up, but The Metal by Tenacious D sticks with me, and so does Trogdor. Trogdor forever. Those ones, like, they get me in the gut.
The Metal. I think of both that. That was in Rock Band also, but I think of Brutal Legend with that one too. If you ever played that one, the Jack Black.
Yeah, I haven't played it, but I've been dying to. I've been dying to play that game since it came out, and like the only way I can find to play it right now is emulation, and like I almost like I don't want to do that to Jack Black. I want to find a copy of that game.
It's a musical rights nightmare.
Yeah, like I understand why it didn't get as many sales as it did, but like it should have gotten.
It was. I thought it was popular. I bought that one and played it.
No. I mostly meant from the sales perspective of like if it could be remastered right now, it probably would be. You know.
Oh yeah.
Like that's more what I mean. It's like, but again, the music
soundtrack purgatory.
Playable Characters Podcast, funny interviews with real video game characters.
Hi, I'm Calvin Cato.
And I'm Brian McGuinness, and we interview video game characters on our show. We have comedians and actors come on and pretend they're a video game character for 30 minutes. We talk to them. It's all ad-libbed and improvised and always very funny.
Past guests include Bowser, Ms. Pac-Man, Q*bert, Princess Peach, and Princess Daisy.
Yeah. Yep. You put them in a booth, and something short-circuited, and I decided that someone was taking too long in the money booth. And I hit her with a baseball bat. And thus was born Super Smash TV.
Just like that.
I was being raised by a family of toadstools.
Oh. How was that? That seemed like it might be kind of fun.
It was really fun.
Mario should stick to plumbing, okay? Okay, he's from what I hear, a good plumber, a terrible hero.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really bad. And, I mean, let's not get started on his, whatever he is, friend, brother, special friend, I don't know, Luigi, whatever they're doing. Well, that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. They're saying they're brothers because, in the Italian-American community, these people tend to not look kindly on certain relations.
If you want to know what's going on in your favorite video game character's life, check us out. Playable Characters Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yes, comes out every Monday.
Danny, on that note, we're going to move into the honorable mentions. 3's never quite enough. Well, I obviously saw that as we kind of had the 2 leading into 3 conversation there, but we go into some honorable mentions at this point in the conversation. The first one here, we're going to stick with the music, and we're going to talk about Drop Mix. More recent release here, Harmonix and Hasbro putting together a little bit of a music mixing game. So are we kind of sticking with this theme when we talk about the honorable mentions, or what's kind of what are the thoughts here?
Honestly, I feel bad because 2 out of the 3 honorable mentions I'm mentioning cannot be found. Drop Mix is a game that the app that it's required for it, in the App Store, I think has just been deadified. It's done. It's been cremated.
Delisted.
It's gone. So you either need it's now become officially one of the until somebody creates a solution for it, which would be wild because it would take a lot of work. The only people who have access to this game are people who bought the game and downloaded the app before it was dead end.
Still,
or you have to buy a phone with it on it. It became one of the hardest games to get, and that's almost part of why I wanted to mention it, but it's also sucks because I want to recommend this to people, but also it's gone. It's gone, How much did you look up about it?
So just understand. So I was going to ask you, what have you put together with it? Because you take
rules.
Different songs and properties, you mix them together. It seemed like that was mostly. I think you were the person who requested it to be added to the Channel 3 library. At which point I was like, 100%. What is this? Because I hadn't known what it was. And part of the reason why we ask you for your list in advance is so Ray and I can familiarize ourselves for this. I want to take this one because, again, the Harmonix, that's someday we're going to get a really interesting narrative about the highs and lows of that company over the last 15, 20 years and the Guitar Hero Rock Band split and all this other stuff through time. But it seemed like there were a lot of mixes, and some of the stuff I was hearing on there is these are crazy that some of these songs are put together here. But, just kind of taking things, mashing them together there and kind of putting together what you want to. And again, no doubt part of this issue was a rights and royalties nightmare. From what I can say is, again, the kind of ongoing joke is Dan's amateur legal hour here, as I can only imagine, as again, not a lawyer, but I can only imagine what the rights and royalties for that thing were doing. It was a balance of, some of the songs and listings I was looking at. I'm like, okay, I see where they kind of took, some popular songs. They took some ones that we could probably get this one for a discount off the shelf over here and kind of throwing it together in that way. So that's what I was kind of more curious from you. How'd this end up here? And also, what did you put together? We need to hear not here, because God help us if we start getting copyright strikes, but where can we see what some of this stuff got put together?
I mean, if you give me about like 2 minutes with mic and camera off, like I can go get you what I made of it.
You'll have to send it to me, 'cause that's going to be the tease. That's going to be the tease for the episode. I think that'll be. I put like a tease out a couple days before the episode. That's going to have to be it. So I'm gonna need that for the episode tease.
So to like summarize what this game is, it's kind of the main reason why I included it, because you all did like some amiibo stuff and like the Skylanders and like, you know, some
you get the
hardware
cards and
mixed with
stuff
software. Yeah. So with this, there's almost like, again, I never watched Yu-Gi-Oh, but I know that they have that like board for the cards. So if you imagine that, but it's physical, this isn't going to even do it justice. But the point is that it's a DJing game. Like, it's an evolution of DJ Hero to the point that it's even more accessible, and it's incredible. But what it allows you to do is, like, there are different slots for you don't even have to follow the rules there, but there's like different slots for, like, you can have your drums here or your beat here, you can have your like bass here, you can have your treble here, you can have your vocals here, you can have this other thing. What it is it's a game that allows you to be a DJ. It allows you to remix songs. You have different cards that you can lay at different spots, and like some are for vocals, some are for some instrument, but they're all for different songs. Am I explaining this right? Because it sounds crazy. I understand that it sounds crazy.
Again, from what I saw from this, like looking at the trailers and looking at some of the gameplay videos, like I didn't quite understand what I was looking at, because there was like, it's like a 4-card slot holder, right? Like that you drop the 4 cards into.
I think it's 5 or 6 actually, but yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah. I think it's 5. It might be 6, but like, yeah, like there's a game that you can play with it. Like there's sort of like a basic game that's more than it's more a tutorial than anything else. But the whole point of the like board is to give you an option to become a DJ. Like you could fully go to a bar and DJ a set with this board game. Like, and it would sound awesome. The thing is that you play a vocal card, it matches the like tempo and the pitch of the song. Like everything is calculated so that you, no matter what you combine, like I could have like Kid Cudi's vocals with like, you know, with a bass from MC Hammer, you know, and I like it have Call Me Maybe sort of like violin going on, and all the pitches will match each other. Like it shifts itself to match whatever set you're doing. So that like I've had full parties that I've gone to parties, and I've also hosted parties where I bring this thing, and it just allows you, like, everybody can play stuff, everybody can do stuff. You can take like 3 cards from like a deck, you can like take a full deck, you can do whatever you want, but it allows people to like mix it as you go, and like you're essentially creating the playlist of the night. Like in it, part of why I love it is that it's not age restricted. Like I've done that with like full grown adults, and then I've also like with my nephew, like he plays down, you know, the drums for something. He doesn't know what It's Tricky is. He doesn't know like Jackson's 5, I Want You Back sort of thing, the vocals, but like he plays that and they all mix together perfectly. Like I think that's the thing that really makes the game great, is that it like takes advantage of, I mean, what audio engineers do to make hits, and puts it into a game where you can work with vocals from actual artists and like instruments from actual artists. And maybe I'm over explaining it, but
no, it was actually very well explained.
Thank you. I mean, it rules. I'm just saying it like it's like it's I don't know, like it turns entertainment and DJing into a deck builder game, and that's what's awesome about it, frankly.
All right, so we're going to go from Lost Gem. So one that I just kind of keeps coming back, obviously just came back again, Resident Evil 4. That's the next game on the honorable mention list. Now,
the remake. I want to specify the remake.
All right, let me tell you, that was the first question on my list. Are we talking about the remake, or are we going back to 2000?
I mean, it's hard to talk about the remake without talking about the original, right? Which is my way of eating my cake and having it too, sort of thing. So like, I've already consumed it. Now I have the cake, and I'm still going to enjoy this cake. Point is that Resident Evil 4 is, I think, that's the thing. I know it's in honorable mentions, and so like, if I were to actually rank, like I told y'all, those were kind of philosophy based. I told y'all that those were kind of like philosophy based. I think I messed up both of those. Anyways, I told you that like those choices were things that like impacted my philosophy towards gaming. If I'm talking about quality, I think Resident Evil 4 might be up there in my top 3 games. Like, ironically, like of just, like my favorite games. I probably played Resident Evil 4, the original, more times than any other game. And so I've been playing through the remake. This was originally going to be my my future choice, but it crept up on all of us, and now I'm just enjoying it, and it's awesome. And have either of you been playing it?
I've only been watching people from Channel 3, streaming Resident Evil 4. Sorry, I was waiting for Joel to drop the Channel 4 logo on the first, but it did not happen. But I've been watching people streaming it because Resident Evil 4 is one I have not. I will be partaking in this one because I did not like.
You not
3.
Played it?
I played 1 and 2. I did not like 3, and then by the time I got to 4, I was like, I don't know what's going on anymore.
Remake?
And it was also like,
what about the remakes though?
I'm going to play the remake for 4. Because the original 4 also came out like a dark period for me for gaming. Like, it's one of those periods where I was like finishing college and working 2 jobs. And when I was in college, I was, working a bunch and finishing college. Like, it just, I just didn't have time for it anyway. And I'm glad it's out now. And it looks great too. Like, it looks good from an aesthetic and visual upgrade perspective.
So if we go back, because Danny talked about how this game just looks so good, it was a quality game, and it's one of the best games. They made 5 versions apparently of this game, on their way to making, and apparently the first version of it they said was so far off from what they were doing that they turned it into a new game, and it's known as Devil May Cry. Devil May Cry is apparently the first failed.
Based on Leon?
The first failed version of Resident Evil 4 is Devil May Cry. They said this is not close enough to Resident Evil. Let's move this off, and they made a new game, and that's its own little series that people enjoy doing. But that was a failed Resident Evil 4 based before.
That makes way too much sense.
Before they went to Nintendo and said, "Hey, we'll make it for you guys."
It would be like if an entirely different gaming studio put out a Knuckles game before Knuckles was part of the Sonic stuff. And it's like, I'm pretty sure this character looks a lot like Sonic, but I don't think it's part of the same thing. Mm-hmm. Like, now that you said it, like, that is Leon. Like, that
you're never going to look at it again.
Yeah, you just...
You're never going to look at it the same again.
It's not just Capcom style. Nope, they just did that. Okay, never mind.
They said, hey, this is too different. So, it's a new game.
If you get the deluxe version of the Resident Evil 4 remake, first off, there's a character that is just at a class, like, how do you pronounce it? This might be the new SNES versus SNES. I'm not trying to stir up any controversy.
Say it.
But is it Castlevania or Castlevania?
I've never heard
of it like
Castlevania.
You're making this... No, you see, you're just messing with us. I'm not putting up with this. You're messing with us.
I'm a Midwest kid. I said Castlevania.
Midwest of where?
That's how we know.
Midwest of what?
Midwest of hell, baby.
Midwest of Romania?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying. Maybe I get no support. Maybe I get no support.
That's the next quest. Now we need to know if someone else agrees with Danny.
Can I
if there's
say,
even one other,
I recognize that Castlevania is the right answer. I just want to recognize that is almost definitely. I could be wrong, but I think that's the right answer. I'm just saying. I also thought that cash was pronounced cache for a long time until my friends laughed at me for 8 minutes because they said I'm gonna. Oh no, it was strafe. I thought strafe was strafe, and to the cafe, and then they laughed for 8 minutes at me.
I accept either of those over SNES. Yeah, either of those over SNES. Fine.
You accept Castlevania over?
No,
it sounds like
I meant Strafe and
Lasagna.
Strafe and Cash and Cachet.
Okay.
Those are both acceptable.
Nobody's with me on Castlevania.
Nobody's with me on Castlevania.
I stand alone. I stand. Okay.
All right, here. Let me give you another fact. This is very funny. This is very funny because Danny's list, on purpose or not, has this thing where Melee we talked about kind of has a lot of stuff that games try to follow up today. People always trying to make up a new way to do Smash Brothers. Halo, as an FPS, has really influenced the way other FPS games went about doing stuff now. Resident Evil 4, you have the over-the-shoulder view, which was odd. It was odd to see kind of a weird third person that you're standing on their shoulders, and that influenced a whole lot of games. Just like Gears of War, that's the one that kind of comes when I think of that over-the-shoulder view there. So I wouldn't have thought of it at the time. I wouldn't have played it and thought, hey, look, I'm looking at a shooter game from a weird angle. But again, you've picked a game that influenced the way other games are made.
I honestly wouldn't have thought about Gears of War until you said that, because with the console and with with the console and what the game was at the time, I understand with Resident Evil 4 where they make you hold the gun and shoot, like where you're not moving and the villains are coming closer to you, hearing just slowly and so that it was it's so much better in the remake that you can move around. The fact that you can move while shooting is so crucial. But what I'm saying is with Resident Evil 4, something that was, I think, fundamental was how much tension was built when you could not move. And you're talking about Gears, that's exactly the same tension that it feels like. Even if you have coverage, that you have to stay there. And if we're talking about, there are so many influences though with Resident Evil 4. I think that one of the best things about Resident Evil 4 also is the embracing of the there's a lot of when I was getting into Resident Evil 4, because that was the question, right? It was just the influence.
Sure.
Sorry, I just want to make sure I was tracking the right thing. When I was 4 was during the height of my love of B movies. I just was getting into those so hard, again, from Blockbuster. But there's so much gore in Resident Evil 4. There's so much weirdness. There's so much there's a little 2 or maybe 3.5 foot Emperor Man. There's a little Napoleon who's zombified, and there's wolves that have scorpion tails and stuff. It gets so weird so quick. And also, I wanted to talk about this. I've been wanting to talk about this. I've been wanting to talk about this, especially in terms of how I think it influenced games going out. How it influenced games from then on out in terms of side characters. Because I think you guys were talking about, what was it?
Was it GoldenEye escort missions? I feel like that's where this is going. With
no. The Tom Holland movie. The Tom Holland movie with
Uncharted.
Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah. Yep. Uncharted.
Yeah. You were talking about how the Uncharted movies, that was sort of Uncharted movies. Uncharted games were the first sort of games where the side character who you had to protect wasn't just a drag, And I feel Ashley kind of changed that, because Ashley is such a drag that I think they had to game developers had to adjust how they approached the side characters.
She was so bad she broke it, is what you're saying?
I think she legitimately I think she broke the industry. I'm thinking about God of War. It has to be your kid. It's not the president's daughter. Leon doesn't have to care about this person except for this mission that he's on. He has no actual emotional investment at all. And she's the worst. I'm right at there right now with the remake, and she's just as frustrating. You used to be able to leave her in a trash can, and now I have not been able to find a trash can to leave her in. You could just leave her in a dumpster, or find a can, or find some sort of stay here. And she just won't stay. She's just following me everywhere. And I love it. That, that's great for a game to gives me that frustration. I hate it. I want to be real. I hate it. But that's what the first game gave me. especially when I had to pause and shoot and pause and shoot and pause and shoot. The fact that they're increasing that frustration, I think, I don't know, is a nod towards them doing the right thing, you know?
Fair enough. Well, let's move back to the GameCube. We're going to talk about a game that you've listed that you would like it to be remade. A game that you feel is your favorite game, though unpopular with the masses, and I want to ask about that. But Lost Kingdoms 2, a GameCube special here. RPG, not the traditional turn-based RPG, though, so let's talk about this. So also, I have to mention here for Ray, anytime there's anything tangentially related to Elden Ring, it has to come up here. So, From Software developed this one, makers of Elden Ring and the various Souls-like torture games here. I'm the bigger RPG guy between the two of us. I've not played this one, but there's a lot of interesting stuff here. Again, I'm watching the videos, and this is right around the time Kingdom Hearts is going for real-time combat, and you see now even with all of the stuff that Square's putting out there with Final Fantasy VII's remake, and looks like a lot of 16, 15. But a lot of the real-time combat as opposed to turn-based. But I'm yapping on a lot here and trying to figure out, where's Lost Kingdoms 2 at here for you?
First off, I don't know if I would say this is my favorite game, but it is the game 100% I'd like to see remade. The pitch of it that I could give both of you is what if there was a game that combined, Monster Hunter, Pokemon, some deck building strategies, Dark Souls, and it was also made by the people who made Dark Souls. That's what this game aims to be. And the hardware for it doesn't exist yet, but that's what it wants to be. Essentially, you go around and you have cards that you throw out on the ground. Some of them do attacks, some of them summon things, some of them summon just abilities, some of them heal you. It's this entire almost D&D style game where you get to choose what you do and choose what you're allowed to do by building the deck of these cards for each level. But also at the same time, you encounter these hideous monsters. That's the other thing too, is that's what I like about Dark Souls stuff is versus Monster Hunter is sometimes Monster Hunter monsters are pretty. Dark Souls monsters are ew. I don't want to see that. But if you could throw a card like Gambit from the X-Men at it and capture it, and then you can use that against another dragon that you encounter later, that's what Lost Kingdoms is. That's what it is if you could actually capture the bosses from Dark Souls and take them with you as part of your deck. Part of 30 cards, 30 actions that you can use per level. I feel weird saying Souls-like because it's not. It's Lost Kingdoms it's before Souls. There's so much potential there. There's so much potential there, and I would just love to see this actually get a remake.
So is that what? So you kind of mentioned it's your favorite game that was unpopular with the masses, more so the unpopular with the masses part. So I was kind of curious: was this just one that was underseen because of the GameCube, or was it just RPGs were a fringe enough area of gaming, and this took that and all of these elements you're discussing, push it further into the fringe of the fringe, and kind of just got missed with this? Or is it just something that was just ahead of its time and combining all of those things? If you put them in 2023, I think you're right. People will eat that up.
I think it's a combination of everything you mentioned. If you really go back to the time when Bloodborne came out, that was before all the Souls games, right? That was the first one.
I don't know where it was first or after. I thought Dark Souls, I don't know. I thought Dark Souls was first.
Either way,
whatever. Yeah.
The first release from the Souls franchise, nobody really saw it, right? It took a while for it to catch on, and this is before that. This game, it simultaneously this was a studio that hadn't had that Dark Souls sort of Bloodborne sort of release yet, something that was that's their Sonic, sort of thing. That's their big entry into video game history, and was an experiment. This rules as a concept, and it largely, I think it only came out for the GameCube.
That
was it only came out for the GameCube?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, because the GameCube was more like the family-friendly stuff when you looked at that time. Like, if this was on PlayStation 2 or Xbox, do you think it would have...
It would have ruled as a PlayStation release.
It just doesn't fit.
PlayStation 2 release.
Yeah. It doesn't fit on the GameCube. It doesn't make sense.
That's 100%. Yeah.
If you're not there with Super Mario Sunshine, Pikmin, Dark Souls murder RPG game. Yeah, that doesn't fit with that. One of these things is not like the other.
And I was like a mythology kid, so it ruled for me. Just like I got to learn what mandrakes were. I got to learn what like wraiths were and different things. Like it teaches you what also like different mythological beasts are and like the origins of them. And like the game rules. Like the game rules. There's a lot of stuff that could be improved. Like there's one part with like the intro to the first village. You're trying to find a dog. So you're just like talking to everybody in the town. And it's like, I could just talking to everybody in the town without it being like, I'm not finding this dog. But like, I don't know. Like there's a lot of quality of life things that could be really fun with this game. I was just saying that like, I feel like the game that I see in the Resident Evil 4 reboot that make me feel like they could really look at what this game like can be and then make it that and like improve upon what was already built. And I don't know, based on all the Dark Souls stuff, like I feel like it like a reboot with that Dark Souls style would rule. Again, like imagine Dark Souls where you can throw a card and you capture the boss. Like you don't even have to really like do a reboot of the game necessarily. Give me something in this world where you can do that. Like that's fun. Like that's stupid. Like it's stupid, but it's fun. Like I don't know. Like it's goofy. Like I don't know. Like I want to capture an 80-foot tall spider like with a playing card, you know, because it got down to like 2 health or something.
Well, let's continue with the GameCube here. We're going to talk about your future game you're looking forward to. Announced in 2017, and frankly, I currently listed this in the Channel 3 library as a release date of December 31st, 2111. Metroid Prime 4. Been in development, not even purgatory, it's just been in development hell for a while now. I think they got rid of the first developer who was there. It's all been quiet. Nintendo's been very hush-hush about it. The optimistic thing I have to say is I think this Metroid Prime re-release and remaster they did with the Switch this year is a sign that they're trying to give us a breadcrumb to not say that Metroid Prime 4 was in a really bad place, but I feel like it's not dead. I feel like they're trying to set the table for this thing. But anyway,
I don't think it's gone.
I think it's alive, but you know. So what are you looking for here? Because we got 5 seconds of cryptic dark video and a title screen. I think that was it for this.
Are you talking about like recently or over the past decade? Because this thing has been promised for.
I think we had the announcement in 2017 with like 5 seconds of video and Metroid Prime 4.
That is the only thing.
But
that is the only actual official bit of content. But I would say the amount of content that has been based on that clip, like everybody's just like, I think it's going to be at the next E3. Like for a decade, like just for years now, people have been like, no, not a decade.
And now they killed E3 just like, so we can't even get that.
But it's going to be at the next one. Like, I don't know when this game is going to come out. I don't know. Like the thing that gives me the most hope is Metroid Dread. Like honestly, and just all the upgrades they've done there. Like, it feels like almost a preview of what they would have to do in 4. Teleport, being able to, like, go around different places, tracking your actual, like, movement in, like, a 3D space. Like, and I'm going to sound like a hypocrite for saying this. It's going to come out with the next Switch, right? Like, it's got to come out with the next Switch, right? Like, it's got to come out with the sequel. Everybody's saying it, but, like,
that's what they said about Tears of the Kingdom 2 also, though. But here we are, getting ready for it.
But also they announced Breath of the Wild before the Switch, didn't they? Because it was for the Wii U.
Yeah, but that was an end-of-life cycle thing. They were just kind of... I think they pulled the plug on the Wii U a little faster than they were going to and had to kind of accelerate the Switch more than anything. I think that had a lot to do with it, too, though.
I think the hard part is like the Switch has a lot of legs. Like the Switch has a lot of distance that it can cover, and like it's not done. Like it's not done. That's the problem. Is like people are still buying it, and like Do you think they're going to go Steam Deck level?
Yeah, but here's the thing: they're not putting God of War Ragnarok on it, right? They're putting games that Nintendo's building for this. Super Mario Odyssey. I don't mean the Steam Deck. I mean the Steam Deck will probably get God of War Ragnarok in the next year, but
they'll probably be 2K and not 4K.
Yeah, but the Switch, like, they stay in their lane. Mario Odyssey still looks good almost 6 years later. Breath of the Wild.
That's the good thing is that
looks good.
All their games look like animated movies. Like all the Mario games look like Pixar movies. All the Kirby games look like Pixar movies. And Breath of the Wild kind of looks like Miyazaki sort of stuff. Like it's all gorgeous.
That's all they gotta do. Just stay in their lane. They'll be fine.
Yeah. I was just gonna say though, that Metroid Prime though, I loved it. Like it gave me some of the best boss battles that I think I had. And I'm hoping for the remaster of 2 and 3. I'm a little nervous that that's gonna delay 4. I also kind of hope that they do some sort. Nintendo is so weird because some packages of nonsense. Am I gonna get Samus's Fury? Am I gonna get Ridley's Fury? Is it Ridley Ridley? I don't know. But the Bowser's Fury game rules, and it's also just a demo for nothing, and but also possibly for everything. And I don't know what packages are coming out next. Old games, maybe get some updated graphics too, in the sort of Dread style. Yeah, I don't know. I'd rather have that than Nintendo just not let those games be available at all, Yeah,
at least they did the remaster though, which is more than they did for Mario with the 3D All-Stars. They just slapped them together and threw it out there. So, there's that.
I also did love Super Mario World 3D. That's Brian's absolute favorite Mario game.
Yeah.
This is number 1. I disagree because the obvious the best Mario game is actually Super Mario 3D. It's not Super Mario 3D World. It's Super Mario 3D for the 3DS. Because there is nothing more tense. I will say I've never felt more tense in a Mario game than the 3D thing of actually falling off the edge of a cliff. As someone who actually has fear of heights and stuff, actually seeing the spatial drop of Mario falling into nothingness, it's haunting, and it's awesome. And I think I 100%ed it because I was just this is a panic attack in a game, and I gotta conquer it.
Well, Danny, let's talk about a question from the Channel 3 history books here, and I wanted to ask you to tell us about your favorite Zelda game.
Ooh, I mean, yeah, I know which one you're referring to because it is the best Zelda game. Link Between Worlds is the best Zelda game. Link Between Worlds is easily the best Zelda game. That's what I wrote down, right?
That was, in fact, your answer, and I want to hear about it, though, because it's not one that I've gotten the chance to play. I will say I've managed to find a copy of it recently, and it's on my little stack to go after here. But tell me about why is that one your favorite? Because you're going into the mobiles, and the mobiles always had their own, because some of the mobile games were developed by Capcom subsidiaries, and they had all sorts of third-party involvement. So the mobile games got a little weird sometimes. But why?
This is a mobile game. Mobile. Sorry, I'm so used to mobile games thinking phones.
Not a phone game. Yeah, the portable.
Let me say
a portable game. Let me say a portable version.
I'm with you. Sorry, I was like, so I think if we're talking about what a Zelda game boils down to, I think that A Link Between Worlds is perfect. A Link Between, if we're talking about dungeons and puzzles and figuring out the world and figuring out the history of everything and getting acquainted with the world itself, A Link Between Worlds is an intended sequel to A Link to the Past, which is what most people contend that is the best Zelda game. It's the first. A lot of people say it's the best, and that's rightfully so. The puzzles are exceptional. And you move down a space, you move across the map. There's almost not a wasted space most of the time. And even then, sometimes it's so you can get to some space quicker. That, I think, is what I love so much about A Link Between Worlds, because it's not only one map like that. It's not only like one layer of making every space count. It's two different worlds. It's maps on top of each other, and like instead of going between two different times, it's two different dimensions of the same time period. And also they have this function where you're able to map yourself onto walls as like a two-dimensional figure. If people need a visual for that, look it up. Point is that like it takes advantage of the 3DS's like abilities without making the game like dependent on it. And it allows you to like revisit places like maybe, one time, maybe like 9 times, and you find like different treasures every single time because every different space like offers so many different puzzles. I think that's my favorite thing, is that like the whole game is a dungeon. The whole game is you figuring out puzzles, and like every different space is a puzzle. So like I love Breath of the Wild, and I love it so much. I can't say that every space is a puzzle, and I can't say that every puzzle is like as memorable as that game. I want to say Breath of the Wild. I want to say that because I don't want people to hate me, and also because I really love Breath of the Wild. I also like play A Link Between Worlds.
Any Zelda game you answer is going to make some other person angry. There's no good answer in Zelda. It's going to upset. You say Link to the Past, Ocarina. I'm sorry, Ray. We didn't have ocarinas in Philadelphia, so I said ocarina instead of ocarina, okay? There wasn't an ocarina store on every corner. But, that said, you say Link to the Past, you upset the ocarina people. You say Breath of the Wild, you upset everybody.
Okay, Arena.
Ray.
Okay, Arena.
All right, Danny, we're down to the final question. What is your favorite Channel 3 feature? You're allowed to say Triple Dare, by the way, but go ahead.
I mean, honestly, like Triple Dare has been great. I think like if I'm being the realist of real, like, because this is the thing I kind of like have been wanting to invest in most, because it like it just makes me so happy. Like I love the Triple Dare stuff. I love being able to give people XP. I love people tuning in for the pre-show and post-show stuff. Like that sounds like I'm promoting it, but it's not. I'm saying like, after the XP is done, where it's just like people hanging out, like, just goofing around, and like, I don't know. It's been really nice getting to know everybody, especially frankly with also the Choose 3 podcast. Like, I've gotten to know who these people are. Like, it feels like a weird cheat sheet. I'm not trying to sound like, look at me. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm like, I'm watching you, I'm listening to you. But also, like, at the same time, I'm glad that, like, I know who the lion is. Like, I'm glad that I know who, like, Bamonti is in, and, like, I'm glad that I know who, like, just all through different people. I'm glad I know who they are. And, like, I've already gotten to know them kind of in that way through text. Through like Discord comments, through like interactions on the site. Anyways, getting back to the main point. My main point is that like I think like the thing that I've enjoyed most is just like connecting people. Connecting with people, especially again like in those after show moments, and like just having fun with folks and goofing around. I don't know.
All right, and with that, we've made it to the end of another podcast. Thank you, Dani over here. Find the podcast at c3.gg/podcast, dropping every Wednesday morning at 3:33 a.m. on all the major platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. I am El Rey. Dan Tucker, he runs this every single week. It's amazing that he keeps doing this and putting it all together. Joel Willis is the executive producer. Have a good day, everybody.
All right, hey, I got to step aside one moment because I have a little alarm crisis going on right now. I'll be back in 1 minute.
Okay.
Apologies. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Been in my house for 11 years now. We've lost power like 5 times maybe. And yesterday was one of those days, mostly because a tree took out the power lines that like everything's underground in my neighborhood, but coming into my neighborhood, still not. So I took this out for a couple hours yesterday, and all of my alarm panels have battery backup. And apparently all those batteries have been dying from that, which then sets the alarm off and makes it go bonkers. So at 11 o'clock at night, when everyone who's not me is asleep in the house, that's not great. So I was sitting here just disarming everything from my phone and running up and kind of shutting everything down to.
Now you have to charge all your alarm things.
No,
I have to charge one.
I just have to change the batteries. Like, it's just the battery backup because like everything's wireless, which is also kind of annoying because every couple of years, like, there's no low battery warning. It's just, hey, your dining room window is going off at 1 a.m. because the battery's got to be changed. Like, guys, can we get a better system here for that? Thanks. Meanwhile, like, I get up at 1 a.m. I'm grabbing, frankly, a sword. Like, oh, let's do this. But I'm looking. I got cameras all over the place, and I'm looking for that. But anyway, Danny, I apologize for that. I was telling Ray my power went out. I lose power like once every 2 years, and it set my alarm on a delayed frenzy the last 24 hours. It's gone off a few times as various batteries have died from backup. So I apologize because being it's 11 o'clock at night, I'm the only person awake, and I wanted to stay that way. So I had to quick shut that down before it blew up.
Yeah, which one of you is in LA? Who's in the West?
Nope.
Or
there are no West Coast people here.
Okay, this all East Coast. That rules. Sorry. I'm happy about that because it just means that all of us find our availability at the same time.
Ray and I are both transplanted at this point, but I'm from Philly. He's from Jersey, so we're all
right on
that Carter.
Jersey's a great place to be. Are we recording again? I don't know.
Yeah, we're good. I know, technically never stopped. This will just disappear.
We will have this for later, at least, even if it's not part of the show. But you can see the board here. Again, you can see like why I compared it to like the Yu-Gi-Oh arm thing. Again, I've never watched Yu-Gi-Oh, but I know that like he has it on his arm. The point is that I have that, but I also have this. I spent almost way too much time on this. Again, this might not make it into the podcast, but at least it'll give you interest of like what I've done. So like I'm not only
is it color coded by like, okay, this is the bass, this is the guitar, this is the vocal, like is that what's color coded there?
So yes and no. So like more often than not, yes. Sometimes there are weird special cards, but yeah, like the bass sort of thing is in green. But that's a thing too. Is like you were asking what degree of obsession I had with this. That's not the card. That's a plastic sleeve. I took every card and like put them in plastic sleeves based by the color that they had. You can see it. Yeah, red sleeve, blue sleeve. And so the blues are usually percussion. Greens are usually bass. Reds are usually different instruments. And usually yellows are vocals. And these whites are like things that you could possibly play and it will like remix what you have in a different way. But also you have these sometimes wild cards, which aren't technically pink, but I put them in pink. They're rainbow cards that will do multiple things.
Like what's that card?
If you want,
what is that card in your hand?
This is Rick James Super Freak. So if you want the vocals, you can see the piano and you can see the drums. You see they give different symbols for the different things that they are adding to your song.
You just drop it onto that slot on the pad and it will take whichever color you put on it.
Whichever colors it matches with, especially. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like for some things, like if you're just playing free play, sometimes it will include frankly, so if you put one of those wild cards on here, like let's say this is yellow and red, it'll play the yellow and red like audio inputs from that. So we'll put vocals and the like main instrument. If you want it to do like main instrument and beat, you can put in the middle and it'll play main instrument and beat. And like if you want it to do the bass and the beat, it'll do like these spaces are for the rainbow cards where it will like play both at once. Anyways,
Ray, I got nothing else. Then,
none of that's good for a podcast. None of that's good for a podcast. I'm just describing visual things, but I'm just saying, like,
I still learned something.
This
today.
game, I'm glad I invested in it though, because it's like I don't know. Like I've spent a lot of time I could send to, I mean, again, this won't be good for a podcast, but like I've gathered a lot of different like controllers that are rare, like different things that kind of have been thrown out, like things that will only be used for one game or two. And yeah, I don't know. Like it feels like this one over time is going to be a kind of lost gem, but I'm glad that I have it.